this is telling of your zone of genius in business is when even when things are breaking and they're not working, you don't hate it.
Mhm.
That's when you know you don't mind going and tinkering in the lab that is your business. You don't mind tinkering with it, working on it until it works. Then you know that you're operating in your zone of genius. Say you had all the time in the world and you didn't have anything that anyone required of you. What would you build then?
So
Absolutely.
let's start with this, Pollock. What was the shift that happened? And I feel like it has been brewing since ChatGPT has come out, but something happened in 2026. So can you talk a little bit about that shift that you've been feeling, especially since the start of this year?
Oh, that's a question I wasn't expecting you to ask. I love that question. Thank you, Cheryl. We've been doing this for 10 years now at this point, and I've built multiple six, seven figure businesses. But ever since I realized how much our productivity and our growth can be accelerated with AI, this is how fired up I felt when we first started building businesses. So, if you've ever built a business for the very first time, do you remember how exciting and how invigorating it is to realize that how much you can grow and what you can build and your capabilities are endless and learning something new about yourself and about the world and about how money works and how business works. And I remember feeling extremely fired up in the beginning, and I feel the same way now, which is 10 years into this. I feel very grateful that I have that energy and fire that I felt when I was first building my businesses. It's like when you have your baby and you feel that surge of love, and then when they grow and they change, and then suddenly you notice them and they become an individual and they say something and you suddenly have that jolt again inside you like, oh, you're a person, you're this is what you're going to say now, this is how you're going to be now. And that's kind of how I always compare building businesses to raising kids. And so I love talking about it because as business owners, the faster you can understand this concept, the easier it's going to be for you to navigate the world of business as you build and scale your multiple businesses that I'm hoping everybody does here.
You do like to share that. Like it's like when somebody says, I have two birds under contract, you like move to like three or four, right? That same thing. That same
Yeah.
thing. All right, let's talk about
Yeah.
kind of definitions. What does that even mean? What does it mean to have identified a genius zone? And how have you and need to use that knowledge in your own businesses?
I love that. Yes. You may have noticed when you have a genius zone, these are things that people always reach out to you for. They'll say, you're so good at it. Can you help me with this? And at the same time, you love doing it. It feels like play to you and it feels like work to them. That's your genius zone, to put it very, very simply. I'll give you a few examples. Okay. So I'll give you the example of my son. My son is extremely energetic. You'll find him like jumping on, our neighbor has a trampoline and their son is his best friend. And for 2 hours, they'll play basketball. They have a hoop in the trampoline and they play trampoline basketball. I didn't even know that was a thing until I saw
Oh,
them do it.
really?
2 hours, they're jumping and playing basketball in there. When he's in the house, he's like fighting imaginary superheroes all the time. Like Alicia and I will be sitting and we'll hear like, psh, psh, take that, and we're like, oh, here, Rohan's fighting, he's a villain and he's a superhero at the same time. He can't, he's very energetic. But if you give him Lego set, he will be at it for hours and he will forget to eat. He doesn't hear what's happening in his surroundings. Time flies. It's like he's in a meditative mode. And he said that the other day to me too. He said, is this what meditation is? And I said, yes, this is play to you. Time flies. You don't realize that you've forgotten to eat. The world just passes you by and you're just so focused. That's what I mean by what your genius zone could be. My daughter is very focused. She loves to do arts and crafts. She can sit and do a project for hours, but Legos don't feel the same way to her
Hmm.
as they do to him, right? So that's what we're talking about here. I had this, now I'm just talking about the specific feeling. You will have noticed this, and when I give you a few examples, you'll realize what we're talking about. I had this feeling when, and if you've some of you followed me for a long time, for years, if you listen to like my old but like if you heard that at that time, um, there was a video that popped up in my feed from me like years ago, and I was saying something like, I'm an engineer, I'm all about spreadsheets and data and numbers, but when my kids were born, I had a visceral need to be with them. I felt like I was in service at my deepest level, at my core. No amount of spreadsheets or data could convince me that this was a bad idea, because financially it was probably not the best idea. I was in a deficit. Even though I quit my job after we had a few rentals, there was still a deficit, and I wanted to do it anyway because I had this deepest desire that this was the right thing to do. This was something only I could do. And probably because I'd never been around kids, and it was just so new and different, and and we didn't have any help. And but I had this feeling. And so I chase that feeling even as we scale businesses. And I chase that desire to feel that I am in service to our students, our clients, our community, our followers, our team, our vendors, and I'm in service and I want to serve them at the highest level possible. What is something that I am the best at? What is something that feels like play to me, but it could be work to other people? What is something that only I can do, right? And so the privilege that we earn as we scale businesses is that we can operate in our genius zone 80-90% of the time. That's the privilege that we all earn as we scale businesses. A lot of people have described this in different ways. You'll hear entrepreneurs talk about what's your hourly rate. I'm reading a book by Naval Ravikant right now. So good, so good. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. If you haven't read it, oh my God, I highly recommend it. It's been years since I've read a book that's like shaken me up. I read a couple pages and then I have to go off and do other things to absorb what he's saying.
Okay.
It's so good. But he talks about your hourly rate, and he talks about like, hey, operate, what's your hourly rate, and outsource the rest, because then you're operating. So people talk about it differently. The way I would talk about it is, where are you deeply in service to the world, to the people surrounding you? What are the things only you can do? And you doing that is serving your company, your team, your clients, your family at the deepest, and yourself at the deepest level possible, right? Okay, so there are 4 zones of genius. If you haven't read the book The Big Leap, it can give you a lot more insight into how he thinks about it. So let's get into it. Okay, so there are 4 zones of genius. The first one, I don't know, which one should we start with? Let's start with
I would probably start with the
worst one.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
zone 1 is your zone of incompetence. This is just something that you're just not good at. So I'd love to know, what is it for you? For me, it is, I think I've talked about it enough that most of you know this. For me, it is USPS. Like, if I have to mail something, I just can't figure it out. I don't know why. I fumble around in the dark. There's some mental block against it. I can't do it. Some people feel like taxes are their zone of incompetence. Some people feel like back-end tech could be your zone of incompetence. Some people feel like small talk is a zone of incompetence. What's your zone of incompetence? What is it for you, Cheryl?
Bookkeeping, hello,
Bookkeeping.
obviously. But it's really, I think this is good to really think about. It's not, the idea is not to be good at everything, although we want to be,
We
but
want to be.
it's to figure out in your day the things that are best done by somebody else.
Yeah, we still have to mail things and be like, can you please help me? And sorry for taking up time. I just don't understand how to do this. And when I was an engineer, our admin used to always laugh when I had to mail out prints and packages anywhere. I would be like, can you help me? I don't know what I'm doing. She would always laugh at me. I had to buy her lunch.
Oh, Pushkin said organization,
Mm,
cooking.
yeah, how interesting. So we all have a zone of incompetence. Then there is a zone of competence. This is just things that we're good at. Some people also find sales to be a zone of incompetence. No matter how hard I try, I just can't, right? Could we still do it? Sure.
Yeah.
Assembling furniture could be a zone of incompetence. Some people just find they just can't make sense of it, right? That could be their zone of incompetence. Yeah. All right. So zone 2 is zone of competence. These are things that you can adequately do. Okay. So it's nothing to write home about. This is things that you can do adequately, but so can a lot of other people. So things like loading the dishwasher, which I hate doing, or simple copywriting.
Yeah.
Right.
Dressing yourself. And I mean just sort
Dressing
of like
yourself. Yeah.
having, clothes that match.
Yeah. Or scheduling appointments, like picking up the phone and scheduling appointments, right? So I'd love to know, what's your zone of competence?
Like you can do it and you
Yeah.
probably have to do it. Like you got to pay bills.
Yeah, adequately. You can do it adequately, but so can a lot of other people. You don't have a lot of pride in the fact that you can do it.
Yeah. Ooh, Rochelle's got bookkeeping.
Mm.
Oh, that is so hard for me. Okay. Organization. Yeah, that's good, Maya. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it just sort of makes you think about your life in a different way, right? You think about the home,
Did you see?
family.
Sorry, Cheryl, I interrupted you. What?
Yeah,
Say it
no,
again.
no. I was just saying it makes you think about your, home, work, family stuff, vacations. Like, I mean, all of it is a big circle of stuff that you have to do. And within those zones, you have things that, maybe you're really good at travel. Like my husband's really good, his probably zone of excellence, we'll get to that in a minute, is like packing a car and having no space to be wasted. We call it Tetrising all the luggage and stuff. He's like really good at that.
Did anybody, so I'm showing my age, but if you ever watched Seinfeld, do you remember the George Costanza would talk about like getting to the airport or from the airport in like the shortest amount of time?
I don't, but I should go find that. I love Seinfeld.
Yes, so packing really well. Um, yeah. Then you have your zone of excellence. And this one's really interesting and it can be deceiving as you start scaling your company. This is things that ever since you were a child, you were praised for. Or this is something that you do for a living. This is your profession, and so you're good at it, and you are succeeding at it. You're good professionally. It's comfortable, but it's not fulfilling. That's your zone of excellence. You can do it. You're good at it. In fact, you're very good at it, but it doesn't spark joy and it's not fulfilling. For me, it was project management. And so, as an engineer, they always put me on projects that were great because I was good at managing projects. And they were like, so I got both extremes. The average projects they didn't need me for, but if things were amazing and they didn't want them to fail, they would give them to me. And nobody wanted to do it and wasn't getting done, but it needed to get done, they would put me on it. Do I love project management? No. I loved it because I was good at it, but it didn't give me joy. It didn't make me feel fulfilled. It didn't make me feel like I was operating at my highest level. So that was my project management was my zone of excellence as an engineer.
So,
Um,
can I ask
I,
you a question about that, Pollock? Is
yeah.
when did you realize that? So, I mean, it was your job and you were very good at it. So, Rochelle is also saying, like you, managing projects and organizing chaos is her zone of excellence. When did you realize that it was not fulfilling? Because when it's
Oh, it's
fulfilling, it is
yeah.
fulfilling, right?
It's a
You mean,
sad story, actually. Should I
oh,
tell you? Yeah, it's not a so always, I'm a woman in a male-dominated industry as an engineer. I worked for 17 years, always working with men. And so once we were in a meeting and we were all talking about ideas and nobody was taking notes and there was no real plan forward. Everybody was talking, brainstorming ideas on a project. And that meeting happened a couple of times. I wasn't in charge of the project. And it happened a few times. And then one of the engineers said, Paula, why don't you take notes? Because you're good at it. And at that time, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, of course. Somebody said I was good at something. Of course, you feel proud. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, wait, isn't that what assistants and secretaries did in the past? And nothing wrong with that. That's a very well respected job position. But wasn't that supposed to be something that predominantly women did in the past? And is that why you're telling me to do this? And I kind of had to think about it a little bit. And I was like, wait, do I really love this? Or is it because nobody else is doing it? And if you have very strong work ethic, and if you were raised to just get things done, and if you are a woman, sometimes you're raised to keep peace, to maintain a clean home, all of
mhm.
those things in our generation, it all started hitting me. And I was like, wait, do I do this because as women we're just raised that way to like do the thing that nobody wants to do that feels unpaid that doesn't have a very high value that um and then I started thinking about it and I was like, do I love this? Does this give me joy? Because at the end of the day when the project is done, you know who's praised? The person whose idea it was, not the person who made sure things got done on time, right? And I was like, wait, so is this something that's fulfilling to me? And I had to think about it.
Mhm.
And it was not a very pleasant feeling like when in a room full of men a man asks you to take notes as a woman, as the only woman in the room. He's like, well, why don't you take notes? You're so good at it.
I think when what you're saying is when people say you're so good at it, think about how you feel
Yeah,
the end of that sentence, right? I think
right.
that, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a great story and one that is just very telling. I'm sorry that happened, but yes,
Yeah,
women empowerment.
yeah, Rochelle says, been there, Pollock. It's happened to a lot of us. And it could even happen to you as a man if you just have very good. I've noticed like some men have just very good work ethic. You're just used to making sure that's, and then you just get assigned that role. It doesn't only happen to women, it happens predominantly to women because of how history is, but it could happen to anyone. So one of my friends was once telling me, he's very successful. And I was like, so how are you always so good? In school, he has a PhD and then he got an MBA and now he's a partner in a firm. And he was like, ever since I was a kid, people kept telling me that I was very good at academics. And he's like, that just became my identity. And he's like, yeah, I'm successful because of it. But do I love what I do? I don't know because I never had the opportunity to figure out whether it was something I truly enjoyed or not.
Yeah, no, that please. I think maybe that could be like the ding, ding, ding moment for
Yeah.
me when people say to you, you're so good at this. And the answer does not matter, but how you feel about the answer, or once that somebody says that to you, that is very telling.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be so negative, you guys. Like this was just a negative story. Your zone of excellence could be your zone of genius. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but the story you told, Paul, very, yeah, that is makes you think about it, right? When you are raised a certain way, or you are a certain way, you're a get things done kind of person, then people depend on you to keep going forward with that.
I mean, some of these are leadership skills, and I wouldn't just completely discard them. These are great leadership skills. And me being a great project manager has been very useful in me being a business owner. But it is 1,000 times more fun to manage your business than to manage projects that you will never have any fulfillment from.
Zone of, I'm just typing it in. Zone of
Yeah.
genius.
So let's talk about what is your zone of genius. And I'd love to know what your zone of genius is, you guys. Drop it in the chat as we talk about it. So, your zone of genius, I gave you a few examples. This is your superpower. Okay. When you're doing this, time flies. This feels like play to you, but it feels like work to other people. This is going to be very unique because we all have a unique mix of talents and history and upbringing. Different life experiences make our zone of geniuses very, very unique. So, when you think of your zone of genius, I want you to go deeper and not just stay surface level.
And you might need to think about it a little bit
Yeah,
because
you
it
might need to
might
think
not be
about it.
something that you have, have ever thought of before. I remember you presented this at Icons a couple of years ago, and that was like the first time many of us had really thought about that. If you thought at one point that project management was a zone of genius for you, okay, I think you realized at some point that it wasn't, but maybe you thought it was at one point. What is it now, and how did you get to where you are now with identifying your zone of genius?
So, zone of genius is going to evolve over time. Right now, because of all of the experiences that I've had in the last 10 years, which has been my biggest growth spurt, all of those experiences, my zone of genius right now, as long as I am building things and creating things, I feel very much aligned with my purpose. I feel very much I could go on till 2 a.m. and I am not a night owl, but if I am building something, I don't realize that it's late. These are things that you will wake up extremely excited to do. And this is telling of your zone of genius in business is when even when things are breaking and they're not working, you don't hate it.
Mhm.
That's when you know you don't mind going and tinkering in the lab that is your business. You don't mind tinkering with it and working on it until it works. Then you know that you're operating in your zone of genius. One of my mentors, Taki Moore, he used to call it, he would say that you wake up with this maniacal energy, like Frankenstein in the lab, and you want to just work on it like crazy. You feel like a maniac, like you feel so excited to work on it. That's how he identified it.
Yeah. How did you realize that it was the building and the creation
Mm.
versus acquiring property and all of the things that go into that?
So I feel like operating in the building mode at all times or 80-90% of the times, this is a privilege that you earn when you build multiple businesses. And I think I always had it. It just took me too many growth spurts, too many builds, too many failures to realize that at the end of the day, I mean, we all care about money, but at the end of the day, it was always about building things. And it was always about figuring out who I was, through the process of building things. Because you and I both know, if you've ever built a business, if you want to work on your childhood trauma and grow yourself as a person and, I don't know, rise like a phoenix from the fire, whatever you want to call it, and put it back together and you'll be a different person. And so many ways to put it. But if I didn't love it, I wouldn't have built so many businesses despite all the failures and everything that we all experience as business owners.
Yeah.
I do think that this whole conversation can be a little misleading if you're trying to start a business. So I do want to talk about that. This is really important, but I'll let everybody talk about their zone of genius before I get into that. And this is, if you don't take away anything else from this conversation, what I'm about to get into is going to be the most important. Say you had all the time in the world and you didn't have anything that anyone required of you. What would you build then? Because when you come from a place of burnout, or when you come up from a place of doing a lot, that's the natural instinct to say, if I had a choice, I wouldn't do anything. Like on my busy days, I feel like that's my genius zone too. I get it. So if you're tired right now, if you have a lot on your to-do list, if you have a lot going on, you may think that that's what you want. But imagine you have vacation, you're on vacation for weeks, months. What would you build after that? Mm-hmm. That's your genius zone, right? That's how you think. So when you're super busy, that's not the right time to think about your genius zone, because then it's just going to directly navigate to, oh, I don't want to do anything.
Mind is so important in this. Like it really is.
Yeah.
The right.
Yeah. This is so good though.
Yes. This is so good.
I love this. I'm telling you, the genius zone conversation can be misleading in the beginning stages of your business. So I'm going to put things in perspective. And I have to thank you guys for teaching me this, because I learned this as I worked with you guys a little bit on this. Let me pull up the questions that Cheryl was talking about. I have them somewhere. Okay. So what comes so naturally to me that I almost dismiss it because it feels too easy to count as valuable? What do people always ask me for help with or compliment me on, even if I don't see it as a big deal? What work leaves me feeling energized, not drained after long hours? You feel expanded, not depleted. What kind of problems do I love solving? The kind that I lean into even when they're challenging. So it's interesting. Don't say real estate is my genius zone, okay? Because we all approach real estate differently. Some of us love the idea of walking properties and scoping out the work that's needed and the design element of it. Some of us love the numbers part of it. Some of us love the people part of it. And we've talked about this where Cheryl was saying that she loves connecting with people. That is her genius zone. And so when we were talking about her investing in real estate, we put that at the top. And we said, well, what if you received success in real estate just by your connections? Mm-hmm. Connect with the best realtor or realtors, have them find you deals. Connect with a great property manager. Connections. Yeah. Let that build your business, right? It's the same outcome, but all of us do it differently. Some of you are great with numbers, and deal analysis is where you spend majority of your time on.
That is actually such a good point that you just mentioned, is it almost transcends the business you're trying to make or the one that
yes, you got it. Yes.
Transcends. So
it transcends the business you're building. And that's what I want to talk about next. Should I just get into it, or do you want to read the chat first?
Oh, I think I don't have anything more in the chat, actually.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this is why the conversation about genius zone can be so misleading in the beginning stages of a business. Because in the beginning of any business, you will probably build that business. Maybe it's your genius zone in the moment. Maybe it's your zone of excellence. There's nothing wrong with that. Because I think Cheryl put it you articulated it so well. Your genius zone, once you've scaled a business, transcends the business. It's not about what business you're in. It's about what your genius zone is, and then you will be operating in that zone at all times, right? So this is why, so Ruby came to, by the way, the Icons retreats and the Icons mastermind calls can give you those. They shift your thinking on these things if you let them. So she came to the retreat and she said, I have these 3 business ideas. And they were all different directions. Very quickly, as soon as she talked about it, we immediately narrowed it down to a business idea that was fully aligned with her zone of excellence. Okay, not her genius zone. It was her zone of excellence. Within 3 months of just having that idea, it was just an idea. choosing between three ideas. Within 3 months, she's already made 20K in profit. Okay. This is possible because she leaned into her zone of excellence at the beginning phases of the business. We make the mistake of thinking that we have to love the business that we build and it has to be focused on our genius zone. And that's where a lot of people who build businesses kind of start and stop, or don't build the business on something that they're genuinely good at, because they think, I don't like that. Why should I build a business on it? But as Cheryl said, your genius zone, once your business is thriving, is going to transcend what the business is about. Because then your job is going to be the CEO. And then it's going to be your leadership skills and what you're truly good at, and then hiring out the rest, right? Then you truly operate in your genius zone. And so don't fall in love or hate the business you're building so much in the very beginning, and allow you to make the most progress. What is the lowest hanging fruit right now for you? That's what you need to build your business on, because as you scale, you will discover your genius zone. It may be something different as you evolve. And then you can hire out the rest. A lot of people say, I don't know, we're too nice, especially if we've always had a job. We're too nice and we think selling is sleazy. That's just how we associate selling, right? I hate selling. It's not true. Selling is a service. You need to help people decide whether whatever you're offering is right or not for them. And that's how you should look at it. But a lot of people think that way. What you don't realize is once your business gets to a certain point, you don't need to do that. You can have someone else do that if you hate it, right? Or tech, or organizing things, or project management, or I don't know what else we put it under zone of excellence. All of those things, you can have someone else take over and do them if you don't like that about your business. But if you build a business based on your zone of excellence, because you already know how to do something really well. So that's what I think can be misleading if we dwell too much on what we love doing in the early stages of our business.
Sometimes our brain, our heart it can steer us the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you see that.
Can you repeat what you said, Cheryl? You articulated it so well. Something about transcends. It transcends the.
Right. Well, what you were saying is, whatever you're good at, is one thing. When you're thinking about real estate or your business, the skills that you have transcend the business itself.
Yes.
If you are really good at numbers, for example, the numbers will transcend being a good real estate investor and being an investor, or being having a business. So the love for numbers is not going to go away. It's just going to grow.
Yes. So
said.
good. You're so good at articulating this thought. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I was getting it from what you said. I was just really hearing how you put that together. Okay, so help who's here, who's watching, help us understand what we do with this now. Now that we've kind of thought about our zones, right? The incompetence, competence, excellence, and genius zones. What do we do with this? How does it help in our real estate journey? And then maybe another business that can support that in the future.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be to really dig deeper and find your zone of genius even within real estate. Because I think that's where you will find your true creativity and purpose and your zone of genius that you will grow, whether you grow your real estate portfolio, whether you build multiple streams. I think that the key will be, as you go about your day, as a real estate investor, start paying attention to which pieces of it light you up, and you guys are all connected with each other too. As you talk to other people, you will realize that there are certain things that come so naturally to you and they feel like play to you and they feel like work to others. What is that? And dig deeper and find that juice, right? Squeeze it and find the juice in it, and realize that you will probably be operating in that zone of genius no matter what business you build. And the goal would be to scale it and get there as fast as possible, because then you will truly be thriving, right? Because at the end of the day, none of us really want to, we think that, but none of us really just want to have pina coladas on a beach, right? Like that's not.
It sounds nice.
It sounds nice, but at the end of the day, you won't be thriving. You'll be thriving when you're tapping into your zone of genius and building on it. That's when you'll truly be thriving.
Can you we've had hundreds of people go through this program. Can you think off the top of your head of an example of someone who you know has tapped into that zone and has grown because of that?
Um,
I can think of many actually, but maybe.
well, you are a great example of how you've tapped into your zone of genius's connection and you grew your portfolio that way.
Mhm.
And you're scaling your active business that way as well. It's all about connection for you, right? And the goal would be how do we get you to doing what you're amazing at and what you love doing, what feels like play to you and what feels like work to the rest of us at all times.
Mhm.
And how do we scale your businesses faster so you can majority of your time is spent on that.
Right. So if you think, so I talk about my numbers all the time, right? So
Yeah.
where I could spend my time just talking and less on crunching numbers. Just very simply, like that's just really the simple way to describe it.
So if you notice, everybody who scaled their portfolio in our community has done it in their own unique way,
Mhm. For
right?
sure.
You take the strategy and you take the good business practices, but then you do it a little bit differently. So Eileen navigated towards Pat Split because it's really important to her to make that social impact and help people. And she wanted to do it a certain way, right? So Eileen did it that way. At the same time, you see Vanessa and Anthony. Vanessa is amazing with people, and Anthony is his zone of excellence is construction. And so they combine those skills and they build an active business that's fueling their real estate business. So if you see, you're you're all already doing it. And the key is to tap into it more, scale businesses so you can operate in those areas at all times, right?
Mhm.
Maybe these aren't the best examples. There are more, I'm sure.
I'm sure. And I'm sure there are ones that you will come up with as you think about it more. What are your takeaways as you're listening to this? What are your takeaways? What are you thinking about
Yeah, we'd love to know what
as
came up for you.
yeah, as Pollock is bringing up this discussion on, I mean, we have to pay bills. We have to do the bookkeeping. Like there's so many things that we have to do. You got to clean your house. But when we're thinking about separating them from zones of incompetence, competence, excellence, and zone of genius, um, where are you falling in and how you feel about those certain things? What can be outsourced, right? What can you have someone
Mm-hmm.
do? What can you have your kids do? What can you have your family do? Whatever. What can you have other people do? And what should you do because it is your thing? Your takeaways from this conversation. Would love to hear. Would love to be able to see and read what you're thinking. This Genius Zone conversation is one, Pollock, I know you brought up today because people have asked you about it.
Yeah.
After we heard it at Icons, people were asking, like, tell us more, give us more, help us understand more how you're able to take that idea to grow.
Yeah.
This
And
business, this idea.
I think because we're all put in this world to serve this world at a deeper level, to make an impact, to do big things, to do what we were meant to do, right? Like what's our purpose and what are we feeling the most aligned? And the more you tap into that, the more you think about that, it'll start coming more naturally to you. And I love that you're thinking deeper on this. And like this room is full of such smart people because I've seen you guys take on things and succeed at it way faster than anybody else would, right? Like you have the ability. It's just a matter of where would you channel it? And we all have to do things that are not aligned. And as you scale businesses, the privilege you earn is operating in your genius zone more and more because you can outsource more, right? You can't do that in the beginning. And so as you 1 to 3 million in revenue is when you can start outsourcing things, right? And then you are really operating in your genius zone. And what's great about thinking about it now is when you don't like doing something in your business, you're fully aware. And for me, awareness is half the problem solved right there. Knowing that I don't like these parts of it, this is the first thing that I will outsource when the time comes.
Something
Or
to work toward, right?
what's that?
Something to work toward,
Something to work towards. All the more reason to scale it faster.
right? I don't have to do this anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're here to make an impact. We're here to serve this world. How do we serve it at the highest level possible so we can make it a better place? And you finding your genius zone and working towards it, as I said, like don't feel bad. Like it takes a while to get to a point where you can truly just work in your genius zone. But you getting there is an act of service. That's how I would look at it.
So what is your takeaway for us?
So I think that it's kind of right now, the way timing is right now, I think the big thing that I want you all to be thinking about is it's less about, how do I put it? It's going to be less about in the moment how you're feeling. It's going to be more about scaling any business, whether it's your birth portfolio, whether it's real estate, whether it's your active business. It's going to be all about that. And then you tapping into your genius zone over time, when you get there, when that business is scaled, will allow you to truly thrive in that genius zone. But this is the time to start experimenting and learning about yourself, right? I feel like being in business is just I've just truly just found out more about who I am, right? Wouldn't you agree, Cheryl? Like it really makes you realize who you are.
It's humbling. It is a roller coaster, and it is also I agree with you completely. I
And
mean,
exhilarating at the same time.
it's kind of where you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So just kind of, yeah, focus on, I think, okay. So if I were to leave you with one thing, it would be just curiosity.
Hmm.
Because as you're building these things, whatever you're feeling now, all you do, if you stay curious, that's going to be good enough. And then by the time your business crosses the threshold where you can outsource majority of the things that you dislike doing, if you stay curious, it's going to come very naturally to you. It wasn't natural for me, but because I wasn't thinking about all of this as clearly when I first started. But you have this knowledge now, so you can start thinking about it more now and stay curious. And so when the time comes, you've already worked through a lot of these questions.
I think the stay curious message is an important one. I think in all of this is stay curious, because otherwise you feel like everything is harder than it needs to be.
What's your takeaway, Cheryl? What are you going to do?
I think my takeaway is just that it is ever evolving.
It is ever evolving.
And maybe you look back on this conversation and feel like this is the beginning of a different way you're thinking about your business. This could be it.
Yeah. Bye, guys. When you're ready to get serious, you can join us at theinvestoraccelerator.com.
It's like getting 1,000 episodes worth of information in 5 days, and it's everything you need to build your actionable plan to financial freedom and making work optional.